With some reactions to the Pentagon Press Conference is Shayan Samii. He's a national security analyst as well as a Middle East analyst. Thank you for joining us today, Shayan. What are your thoughts on the press conference that we just watched?
Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, Steph. And thank you for having me on your program. Well, Secretary Hegseth basically identified all the areas that the U.S. administration has been talking about in the last 10 days, that their attempt is not directly going after the regime, although their work will ultimately, in my opinion, lead to a collapse of the regime that has pretty much been decimated, and its leadership is either dead or nowhere to be found. So, but one important note that the chairman mentioned was that he was unwilling to talk about the Iranian military's capability or whether they have been surprised by anything. That tells me that the war, at least from the prosecution by the United States side, is going pretty much as planned. And another important factor was that, as we have heard news that there is a rift between the United States and Israel, Secretary Hegseth basically shot that down. So if I want to give you a top three of what we learned, is that A, the United States is staying the course, despite the fact that some outlets are saying, oh, President Trump said the war could end very soon. President Trump has always said, listen to his remarks, and because he likes to weave things together. So let's not jump to conclusions. Number two, the United States is on its program and on its mission, and they are advancing their program and their prosecution of the war in a way that is methodical and in a way that is to not allow the Iranian side to have a comeback attempt. And number three is they talked about the safety of the Strait of Hormuz, because that's also another area of concern. This is important to note that the Strait of Hormuz, from land to land, is about a 20-mile stretch. But the area that large ships and large oil tankers can pass through is only a 2-mile stretch. And the Iranian side might have been trying or attempting to lay down mines for the ships that cross there. But the United States has been able to either destroy those or even destroy the old tankers that the Iranians wanted to bring to that area and blow up, so they could pretty much block the passageway. So all in all, this attempt is going very well, and the Iranian side pretty much doesn't have a good answer for it.
Yeah, I want to stay with the Strait of Hormuz as your third point. President Trump on Truth Social saying that should they try anything to disrupt shipments in the Strait of Hormuz, that we would increase our campaign 20-fold. And he described it as a gift to China, because the U.S. really doesn't rely on that oil supply, but that's a major contributor to China, and of course China being an ally of Iran. So how do we understand sort of the interconnectedness of all this?
Well, that's a very critical point that you're making, because China relies on cheap oil from Iran, and also China doesn't pay in a currency. China just sends its unwanted products to Iran as like a barter agreement. That's number one. Number two, during this conflict, where has China been? If China is such an ally, and they express that they're an ally of the Iranian government. And thirdly, yes, because the Iranian side has been able to keep its oil afloat on the sea, at the sea, on tankers, and the Chinese side would just take them little by little as they need, and even not pay for them. So this statement by the president is a direct hit at the Chinese leadership that, hey, you may want to talk to your boys in Tehran and tell them to lay it off of this attempt, because if this happens, you're going to be the first loser of it. And we have such a high presence in that area that we can destroy anything and anyone that comes to our on our path. And let's not forget that the chairman mentioned in his press conference that the United States has destroyed over 50 of the Iranian ships, and the Iranians have been crying foul that, hey, why are you destroying our ships? It's war.
Absolutely. And I want to then pivot over to Iran's other major partner, Russia. Of course, President Trump and Putin speaking on the phone for an hour. It sounds like Putin was trying to convince him to negotiate and try to have a ceasefire, which the president, of course, seems to have brushed off. But I want to understand, the Iranian drones are used by Russia. Where does Russia sit in all this?
Russia is basically enjoying seeing their stooge getting beaten down, but not to the point that they will be destroyed and the government gone. Why? Because China wants a very diminished Islamic Republic to stay in power so they could use them as their stooge. So they could say, you need to send us the drones, you need to do this for us, and we in turn will just bloviate and say that we are taking your side. Like, we will make a phone call to the US president. But they know, and Putin knows, that between his own quagmire in Ukraine and Iran, he would much rather talk about how to end the debacle in Ukraine and not worry about the Iranian side, because they don't give a hoot about Iranian and Iran's leadership and government. So Putin is just trying to save himself. At the same time, he's trying to have cheap materiel so they could continue to prosecute their a war with Ukraine and utilize Iran as its bargaining chip, basically telling the president of the United States, hey, if you help us with Ukraine, we will just tamp down these boys in Tehran and tell them to shut up. But that's when they are not seeing that. The Russian side also is just playing both sides and just trying to stay on President Trump's good side just enough so they do not get him riled up, because they know if Trump is mad at them, then all hell breaks loose.
And just in our last 30 seconds, take us inside of Iran, what the leadership there is trying to do and where the people may have their opportunity to come to the streets more forcefully.
Great point. Number one, the leadership is nowhere to be found. They have so-called selected a new supreme leader, but he has not issued a message. He has not been seen. Reportedly, he's been severely injured during the attack that killed his father. And he also doesn't want to show himself. It is the IRGC, basically, that is running the show and has promoted his name and has put out his name without even a vote by the Assembly of Experts. But the people of Iran are very astute. They know what they want, and that is an end to this regime. And they also have a leadership in mind that they would like to at least help them during the transition, and that's Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. And they know that they will have to wait and listen for the President of the United States to tell them when it is a good time to come out to the streets. President Trump, at the beginning of this intervention, stated that we will notify you. It is not safe to come to the streets now. So people of Iran are astute. They are listening and they are adhering to all the information that they're receiving, not just from the president, but from CENTCOM and the press conferences by Secretary Hegseth and the chairman. And they will come out and topple this regime once and for all.
Well, we appreciate your insights. We've gone from inside and out. Shayan Samii, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.